she's feeling vulnerable and broke, essentially. I mean, she is almost homeless at this point. She was cut out of, obviously, Royal Lodge. She's no longer there. She can't live with Andrew. She can live with her.
The night the 30-room Royal Lodge fell silent, it wasn't with a royal announcement or a dignified farewell. It was a scramble into the shadows. While the world watched the slow collapse of the York brand, Sarah Ferguson was reportedly enduring her most embarrassing final hours, not walking out the front doors, but smuggled through the gates, lying flat on the floor of a car to avoid the glare of the cameras. This wasn't just a move, it was a desperate disappearance, and as the car sped away, leaving behind a house being stripped of its history in the dead of night, one question hung in the air. What exactly was she hiding from that required such a humiliating exit? The 30-room Royal Lodge didn't just go dark, it was effectively scrubbed from the map. For decades, Sarah Ferguson and Andrew Mountbatten Windsor lived behind those walls as if the rules of the real world simply didn't apply. But then came the midnight order. While most of Windsor slept, the lights inside the mansion were dimmed to a haunting glow. This wasn't a scheduled move, it was a tactical retreat. Insiders describe a scene of absolute chaos hidden behind drawn curtains. Staff weren't packing designer luggage, they were throwing a life into cardboard boxes as if they were running from a fire. Imagine the humiliation. A woman who once commanded global headlines, now reportedly lying flat on the floorboards of a car, smuggled like contraband. Why the desperation to avoid a single camera lens? Because the palace wasn't just moving her out, they were erasing her presence. The silence that followed was even more chilling. While Andrew remained visible, almost defiant on the grounds, Sarah became a ghost. The message from the king was deafeningly clear. The protection has reached its limit. The bank accounts were draining, the titles were gone, and the keys were being handed back. But as the last van pulled away under the cover of darkness, a new set of documents was already being unsealed, and what was buried in those files would make a midnight eviction look like the easy part, because while the house was empty, the digital trail they left behind was about to set the entire monarchy ablaze.
Today, we've seen uniformed officers in the grounds of Royal Lodge, but they're coming and going quite frequently through the day in quite an understated way. They're using unmarked police vehicles to come and go. Royal Lodge, obviously the home of Andrew Mountbatten for more than 20 years. But
the golden rule of royal protection was shattered on February 19, 2026. The very morning Andrew Mountbatten Windsor turned 66. Instead of a quiet family breakfast at his new home on the Sandringham estate, the air was filled with the slamming of car doors and the heavy footsteps of plainclothes detectives. This wasn't a courtesy call, it was a raid. For the first time in over 350 years, a senior member of the House of Windsor was being taken into custody, and the image that followed would haunt the monarchy forever. Andrew, once the spare to the throne, was seen slumped in the back of an unmarked vehicle, his face a mask of shock and ruin as he was driven away from Wood Farm. The charge? Misconduct in public office. But the real story was what the police were looking for inside those walls. While the world watched the arrest, forensic teams were reportedly scouring both his new residence and the hollowed-out remains of Royal Lodge. The timing was brutal. Just weeks after he and Sarah Ferguson were stripped of their final titles, the York Shield had completely disintegrated. And where was Sarah during the chaos? Nowhere to be found. As the sirens wailed across the king's private estate, the woman who had stood by him for 30 years had seemingly vanished into thin air. Rumors began to circulate that she had fled the country entirely, with whispers of private islands in secret wellness retreats in the Alps. But the reality was much grimmer. While Andrew faced an 11-hour interrogation, the digital ghosts of their past were finally catching up to them. Because the arrest wasn't just about old rumors, it was triggered by a fresh, devastating trail of evidence that the palace could no longer ignore. And as the sun set on that historic day, the focus shifted from the man in the cell to the emails that had put him there. Messages so explosive they threatened to take the entire family down with them.
Choosing to spend time with a man who has already served time for targeting underage girls raises serious moral questions, fair or not. That association, Beatrice and Eugenie jumping on a plane to spend time with Epstein, along with Fergie, has reputational consequences. The monarchy has to think long-term and ask it is about safeguarding the brand.
The most stomach-churning revelation in the 2026 files isn't about the parents. It's about the two young women who never had a choice. While the public was already reeling from the York collapse, a series of emails from July 2009 surfaced that have reportedly left Princesses Beatrice and Eugenie aghast and mortified. According to these records, just 5 days after the disgraced financier was released from his first prison sentence for crimes against minors, Sarah Ferguson didn't distance her family. Instead, she reportedly took her daughters, then only 19 and 20, to a private lunch with him in Miami. Imagine the scene: two young royals, heirs to the throne, being seated at a table with a man the rest of the world was rightfully shunned. For the sisters, this wasn't just a lapse in judgment, it was a total failure of parental protection. But the betrayal goes even deeper. New evidence shows that Andrew Mountbatten Windsor continued to bridge the gap between his daughters and the predator for years. In a move that has been described as ghastly, Andrew allegedly sent personal holiday cards and private photos of Beatrice and Eugenie directly to the financier's inbox, one even showing Beatrice in a Christmas hat, sent years after Andrew claimed he had severed all ties. To the girls, these weren't just emails, they were their childhood memories being used as currency to maintain a toxic friendship. The fallout has been swift and brutal. Insiders say the sisters are now creating a massive distance from their father, choosing to spend the last holidays at Sandringham with the king, rather than in the shadow of the ongoing investigation. They are young women with their own families and careers, yet they are waking up to headlines that stain their names with a brush that isn't theirs. And as the police investigation into Andrew's misconduct in public office intensifies, the sisters are left in an impossible position. How do you support a parent when the evidence suggests they put you in harm's way for the sake of a supreme friend? The midnight departure from Royal Lodge wasn't just a move, it was a burial, as Sarah Ferguson was reportedly smuggled out in the back of a car, and Andrew Mountbatten Windsor was later captured in that now infamous image, slumped in a vehicle after his 2026 arrest. The York brand didn't just fade, it collapsed. Today, Sarah is living in a strange kind of limbo. Reports place her everywhere, from high-end wellness clinics in Switzerland to quiet retreats in the UAE, effectively a ghost of the royal circuit she once dominated. But the real tragedy isn't the lost mansions or the stripped titles, it's the shadow left over Beatrice and Eugenie. For two women who have built their lives on advocacy and charity, being blindsided by emails that link their childhood memories to a predator is a betrayal that may never fully heal. They are now the ones left to navigate the wreckage, barred from royal processions and facing a public that is no longer willing to look the other way. The palace has made its choice, survival over sentiment. The doors to Royal Lodge are locked, the files are open, and the never-ending mess has finally reached its breaking point. But as the investigation into Andrew's time as a trade envoy continues to unfold, one question remains. Was Sarah Ferguson's midnight exit the end of the scandal, or just the beginning of a much darker chapter? What do you think was the ultimate deal-breaker for the king? Was it the eviction, the arrest, or the betrayal of the daughters? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one. And if you want to stay updated on the most high-stakes royal collapses, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss what we've uncovered for the next video.